everyone. Today we're talking about how to keep love fresh. Firstly, plan some surprise events for your partner to heat up your relationship on memorable days. Being honest and open with your partner about your feelings is also important. Remember, love isn't just about feelings. It's also about actions. If you truly care for someone, you'll take the necessary steps to keep that love alive and vibrant. So here's a tip. Don't hesitate to express your feelings of affection toward your partner. They need to feel cherished too. Let's stay positive and keep love alive. Same reply. My aunt then said, "Look, brother, I have a great right over Pfizer. She was just 2 days old when I held her, and I have raised her for 15 years. You cannot refuse this proposal. If marriage isn't meant to be at the moment, we can wait. Marry off the elder first, and then do mine later. But just get the engagement done, so that we have peace of mind." My father didn't want to offend my aunt, so he agreed, and got me engaged to Sultan. After the engagement, spring came to our home. My aunt and her daughters began to visit us more often. Sometimes Sultan would also come with them. He liked me, and would come under some pretext to talk to me. Whenever my cousin's sister Rabia was with them, it would be lively. Gradually, I became comfortable with Sultan, and would look forward to his visits. If a week went by without seeing him, I would complain and send a message to my cousin Rabia to tell Sultan to come. I was feeling sad. Sultan started coming weekly. We would converse, which annoyed my sister. The sight of Sultan would change the color of her face, and she would display her displeasure, as if a serpent were coiling in her chest. Gradually, Nazra made my life miserable. She wouldn't let me talk to Sultan, would stop me from being hospitable, and would spill the tea, even while making it. While she had become the mistress of the house, she treated me like a servant. How long could I endure this constant humiliation? I even hid these things from Sultan, because I was afraid he would stop coming over, or would break off our engagement. I pleaded with Nazra many times not to mistreat me. She simply wouldn't listen. The real issue was that she felt aggrieved because I was engaged, while she still hadn't found a match. She didn't like our love either, as my happiness was unbearable to her, and her envious nature had no cure. She began forcing me not to visit Sultan. She insisted that if he came over as a guest, she would talk to him since she was the elder sister. She said she would serve tea, and that I would have to keep my distance from my fiancé. This was our family tradition. If I didn't observe this tradition, she threatened that she would tell our father, and my engagement would be called off. The world was forbidden to him from coming over, but she didn't express that it was because of her elder sister that I was forced to do this. Sultan mistakenly thought I had become indifferent to him and didn't want to marry him. Perhaps he thought I had changed my mind. He told his family that if I denied accepting my sister's restrictions, they made it a matter of pride, and thus the conflict escalated. Exhausted, I stopped communicating with Sultan and decided I didn't want to marry him because his loving attitude had changed, and he had also been barred from coming home. My aunt asked me about this. If I complained about my sister, she would never forgive me and would make my life miserable. So, I said that until my sister got married, Sultan shouldn't come to our house, nor should his family. Otherwise, it would be a humiliation for them. My aunt thought I was speaking out of concern for their dignity, because I was scared to name my sister. So I spoke vaguely. My aunt took it to heart and left silently. During this time, proposals came for Nazra, but they would prefer me. One very good match appeared. My father thought that since Sultan's family had backed out, why not give Pfizer to the suitor? If she steps back, it'll be a chance for the elder. He immediately proposed me to a wealthy family, and due to my cowardice, I couldn't clarify to my father that it wasn't the fault of Sultan's family, but that I was prompted to stop them from coming due to my sister's pressure. Nazra also made sure to convince our father that Faiza didn't want to marry Sultan, which is why she had prevented them from coming over. In such discontent, I ended up marrying Zaman Khan, unable to explain my circumstances to anyone. At that moment, I missed my mother dearly. If she were alive today, I would have confided in her, and my love wouldn't have had to endure so much suffering. My aunt was upset with me and had stopped visiting. I couldn't share my heart with her. She called me disrespectful and guilty. After my marriage, it seemed like my sister had found peace. Victimized by this plot, I moved from Multan to Lahore with my new husband and settled for my fate. But later, my father realized his mistake and went to reconcile with my aunt. Discussions started happening again about matches, and my uncle requested Nazra for Sultan. My father was keen to see Nazra married. He quickly agreed. Sultan's parents also convinced him under pressure, and my sister became my former fiancé's wife. Sultan had sacrificed his desires to please his parents, unaware that it was Nazra's scheming that had distanced us. My sister continues to convince him even now, saying that Faiza herself rejected the proposal, which is why she prohibited him from coming over. My sister succeeded in her scheme and was happy, while my fate remained unhappy. The man my father married me to, thinking he was wealthy, was already married and a father of 3 children. His first wife had walked away, and when she learned that Zaman had remarried, she returned with her brothers. Her 3 children were her tools for leverage, and her position was bolstered by her influential brothers. After much conflict, it was decided that Zaman would divorce me, and his first wife and children would stay with him. For the sake of the children, he agreed to his family's conditions and sent me back to my parents' house after the divorce. I was divorced without any fault of my own, but my sister started spreading rumors, saying that I hadn't settled in my home because of Sultan, and that I deliberately sought divorce, even though I was pregnant at the time. My elder sister refused to take me in. My father was alone and had put forth a condition that as long as he was alive, Nazra would stay with him, and Sultan would become a live-in son-in-law. As the house where Nazra and Sultan lived was my father's, I also had to stay there because I had no place to go, especially in my condition when I was expecting. Soon, I realized that living there was even harder than living with a co-wife. Sultan cared for me, but my own sister wanted to strip the very breath from my body. When Nazra couldn't find a way to throw me out of the house, she hurled a vile accusation, saying that I was not pregnant when I was divorced, but had become pregnant afterward, and that Sultan was responsible. When my father heard such a thing, he became deeply distressed, as he was old and could no longer bear such shocks. This accusation infuriated Sultan, who finally understood the entire conspiracy Nazra had crafted to get him for herself. He felt sorry for my situation and made a decision that none of us could have imagined. He openly told his wife that any woman who could level such hateful accusations against him and her own sister was unworthy of being his wife. He said she deserved to be punished for this falsehood, but although he couldn't have her physically punished, he would separate her from his life. He divorced her and left the house. After that, Nazra became vengeful and wanted to harm me. At that point, I called my aunt, who came and took me to her house. I stayed with her until I gave birth to my child. Afterward, she arranged my marriage to Sultan. In this way, God returned my lost love to me, even though I was not at fault in the entire ordeal. All of this happened due to my sister's foolishness. However, now people sympathize with Nazra and blame me. They believe I left Zaman willingly and destroyed my sister's home because I wanted to marry my former fiancé. Only Sultan and my God know that I neither thought nor did anything of the sort. Whatever happened was by the will of God. Yet, both my father and my sister are angry with me. I am at peace with my conscience, knowing that I neither committed any wrongdoing nor made any mistakes. Today, I am living a happy and content life with Sultan. I have 4 children, and my first child, who is Zaman Khan's son, is also loved by Sultan as if he were his own. My son Adnan calls him father, and for his sake, we have left our homeland and moved abroad so that the venomous words of people do not harm Adnan's innocence.